little assignment for us to hopefully introduce us to some new tools in Tuka Tech and just kind of play around with them and see if we can get a little bit more familiar with some of the keyboard shortcuts as well. Hopefully this is fun for you, maybe. Okay, so I found this little image on the internet, and why I pulled it was because it has some pleats. There's a seam, I guess, at the waist and 3 pleats. I'm not going to worry about the top bodice part. I'm just going to ignore that. And I thought that could be kind of fun to try to do to this pattern piece that we have here. So you should have downloaded a bodice that's already drafted. And what we're going to do to start is we're going to add a seam here. We're basically going to cut this pattern piece into 2 separate pattern pieces. And then we'll add pleats on the bottom half. So 3 box pleats, just like this picture. So if I didn't tell you how to cut this guy, what could you guess which tool to use? If you were working on this pattern piece at a table and it was made of paper, how would you separate it? You would probably get scissors, right? And just cut it apart, maybe a ruler first. But anyway, so Tuka Tech does have some scissors up here. The keyboard shortcut to cut is X, maybe because the letter X kind of looks like a pair of scissors when they're open. Maybe that's a helpful way to remember that. I think that's a good keyboard shortcut to memorize. It does have another pair of scissors here where you hold Control-Shift-X, and that's to cut internal lines, which I think is a little too intermediate to talk about today. So let's just not worry about the internal line one. Okay, so you can either hit the letter X on your keyboard, or you can go up and click that, and then you just decide where you want to cut it. So I'm going to do it around the waistline. You can do it in the same spot, or if you'd rather do an umpire seam, you can do it up higher towards the bust area. I don't really care. I just want you to practice cutting the pattern. So now remember how this works in a clockwise manner. I guess it doesn't really matter. Never mind about the clockwise thing. I think either way, it'll just be split. Okay, well, I'm just going to start here. I click there, and then now I have to click the other point, and it's going to cut it with a straight line. Now, I want my point here perpendicular from this, I guess this center front seam. So, do you remember the keyboard shortcut to get it to go straight down? In Illustrator, you would just hold Shift. But here, we would hit Shift V. V is for vertical. So when I do that, it forces a straight line. If I hit Shift H, it would force a straight line on the horizontal direction. So I'll hit Shift V. So if you're familiar with Illustrator, that's kind of easy to remember, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to click right on the line. It does pop up a dialog box where, if I actually wanted to type in the distance from the previous point or the next one, you could actually change it. Right now, the distance to the next point is like 10.243. If you actually wanted it somewhere else, you could just type that in and say okay. Okay, this piece has grading. Let's just ignore it. We'll just say yes, let's cut it, and don't even worry about the grading. Okay, so now because we're separating these pattern pieces, it's asking us if we want to add seam allowance. Sure, it's defaulting in this case to 1/2 inch. That's fine. Okay, cool. So there you are. You got to play with your scissor tool. You got practice using the keyboard shortcut of making straight lines. Now, let's separate these 2 pattern pieces. They are separated, but let's actually move them. So, could you guess how to move this pattern piece over to the left a little bit so there's space in between them? They're not laying on top of each other. If you guessed the select tool, that's great. Yes, that's the tool you would do. Do you know the keyboard shortcut? Because it's kind of a pain in the butt to always have to scroll your mouse up here. The keyboard shortcut is end. So end's kind of by the number pad on these computers, sort of in the middle of the letters and the number pad. So look for end, and we'll be using it a lot, so I highly recommend learning it. Okay, so then all I have to do is just click and drag, and it'll move. Or if you don't like clicking and dragging, you can hit the space bar and then move your mouse around. That way you don't have to hold down the clicker. Try both ways. See which way is more comfortable for you, just clicking and dragging with your mouse, or hitting the space bar and having it kind of attach. I'd like you to know both ways, and then you decide which one you like better. Okay, look at us. We have 2 separate pattern pieces here. Now we're ready to add the pleats. Okay, so I'm being kind of tricky, and I want to add 3 pleats. Okay, so to use the pleats tool, Tuka Tech actually just has a pleats button here to add multiple pleats. This is just to add one. We want to add multiple, but it won't let me click it. It's grayed out. So in order for me to access it, I actually have to select where I want those pleats to go. So make sure you're with your white arrow, hit the end button, and you click and drag and select where you want it. So make sure it's highlighted. Then you'll notice, hey, you have access to this. Now I'm working on half scale. This is a center front line, and it says number of pleats. Well, it's not going to let me type in let me type in 1.5, but then okay is grayed out, right? So I'm going to X out. So I'm glad that we're doing 3. I'm glad we ran into this problem because it's going to help us introduce us to some more tools. So oftentimes we want to draft on the half. That makes sense. That way it'll be symmetrical when we open it up. So in this case, I actually want to set my fold line right now. I don't have a fold line selected. I can tell this is like my fold line little toolbar here. It says view half. And when I click it, nothing happens because there is no fold line. So I have to select where I want my fold line to go. And then you can see once I select it, this button is no longer grayed out. This is select half. So I click that. And then now it's asking us about grading conflicts. Again, we're not worrying about grading today, so just say yes, we want to continue and ignore it. Okay, cool. So now if I hit view half, it only views half. If I click it again, it shows the whole pattern piece. But the problem is that any changes I make, the computer's only going to let me make it on the working half, and then it's going to make all of this symmetrical. So even though I set the half, it still is thinking that it's only half a pattern, and it's not going to let me select the whole thing. It's only going to let me select, from here to here. It won't let me go. So like this isn't working. It's just kind of like a mirror. So to get it to be a full pattern piece, I would say open up my half. See that red line went away? Now it's one big pattern piece. So I could make it asymmetrical if I wanted to. And see how the other side didn't copy it? I hit Control Z to go backwards. Okay, so now it's a big working pattern piece. So now I'm ready to get my white arrow. I'm going to hit End. And then I'm going to click on this whole entire seam. And now I'm going to go and add my 3 pleats. So now I can type in 3. You can type in how deep you want them, maybe 2 inches wide. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I chose box pleat because that's the style that's pictured here. And I'll say OK. Boom. Look how much fabric that's going to take. This is definitely going to cost a lot more money. Okay. Great. So right now, maybe I want to check and see if when I sew up this skirt, if it'll still be the same length as this guy. So Tuka does let you fold your pleats back. It has a whole pleat menu bar. If you go up here, you can say close all pleats. Dun, 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 dun. Close. Oh, maybe it has to be selected. There we are. Close. Boom. And then we can see, okay, yeah, they're the same measurement on the half. So that's good to know. Maybe we want to go back and get this guy on the half scale. Like, let's say we do want to change some, the side seam, make it longer or something. We really should only change it on one side. It should automatically mirror the other side. So to get back in that working mode, we need to select the halfway point. So this is half of it. And then I can say set the half again. So that's our half. And then I can view it. If I don't want to look at it, I can get rid of it altogether if I wanted. Here, I'll say view so I can see it. And I can just delete it. That's how it was originally. It didn't even have the half fold point. Okay, so anyways, I kind of want you to play around with that. We will be using, these half tools a lot. Let's see here. One thing I did want to note to you, you know what? Let's try. I was like, did our pleat go away? Let's do pleats, open pleats. Isn't that great? Okay, so I think because we got rid of our fold line, it caused an error in the pleats. So I'm going to hit Control Z. Okay, so right now we still have our fold line here. I'm going to go to pleats, open all pleats. Oops, maybe I need to hit Control Z again a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's try it again. Open all pleats. Yay, there it is. Okay. Yeah, we have to be careful. So let's see here. Let's have it open, and now let's set the half. Let's try that. Okay. Now we can set our half. Ignore the grading business. We don't care today. And then now let's, I don't think we should delete the half because then it's going to mess up our pleat tool. So if we don't want to look at it, let's just not look at it. But we should still leave it because we have the pleats there and we want that guy to be symmetrical. So at this point when you're working with the pleats tool, you kind of have to leave it with a folded line. You can't get rid of it. Yeah. But you don't have to look at it if you don't want to. So that's the good part. Let's go back to pleats and close them. There we go. So now it's letting us look at it closed. Okay. Let's see here. So anyways, that's really the end of this tutorial. I hope you know, you're starting to get a little bit more confident in moving the pieces around. And yeah, let's just see how this assignment goes.